All right, Larry. Now we're going. Now we can. Now let's hear the remainder of this story of the the truck that's not working.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the ground and I'm like, wow, I don't know how this thing was charging or starting or running any point in the last 3 years because of how rusted the ground at the block was. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have like I also had like parts store replacement terminals on the battery that were always wrong. Like the negative terminal was the wrong size, so I had like a shim on it and it still didn't get tight enough. And I was like, all right, I got to do something about this. And I knew that I had a Volkswagen negative terminal with ground wires on it in a box right inside my garage door. So I pulled it out. I go to put it on. Dude, I swear to God that the Mark III Volkswagen VR6 ground cables terminals were made to be a direct replacement for the old body style Fords. So it's got two ground leads on it. One goes right to the inside. It's probably like I don't know what gauge wire, but pretty small. Goes
Yeah.
right to the inner inside of the passenger side fender. And then there's a long, thick gauge ground that runs down the side of the airbox down to the block. I put this thing on the negative terminal and I ran the wires to where they would have had to go if it was the Ford terminal. And they literally were the perfect length for both of those spots.
It's good to
I
know.
was like, huh, what are the odds that a
What are the
vehicle I
odds?
owned in the past, I have this part laying
Wait,
around?
is this the green Mark III from like high school?
No, that came off of the black one that I junked.
Oh,
I stripped
whatever
and
happened to that green one?
the green one.
The green. I mean, I know we're going back like quite a ways
Oh,
because we're
don't you
talking.
worry. I have a very clear memory of what happened with the green one. This is a good story, actually. So me and my brother's 4 years younger than me. I had that 2.0 liter, 5 speed green Jetta.
Yeah.
And
And
my
just for
brother,
reference, this is going back at this point probably almost 15 years.
oh, yeah. Right? When we graduated high school, that was
Oh
like
six,
2006. So that was oh 07, oh 08, maybe like,
14 years ago.
yeah, it was like
Wow.
summer of like 2008 or 2009, and my brother got his license, and he bought a Mark III 2 liter 5 speed Jetta, and we were both at my cousin's house. My car was like lowered already at that point. His was still stock height. I was looking to get rid of the car and buy a truck, and he was going to buy the car off of me. And what happened was we were leaving my cousin's house. He was following me. We were going back to our house. And I pulled up to, it's actually definitely somewhere you would know the location. I just don't know exactly what roads they were. But it was like in the Matawan area by St. Joseph's High School. There's like a stoplight. It's a four-way intersection. It's a gas station right on the corner. The parkway is like right through the light, and there's like a baseball field on the right side. I don't know what two roads that is, but
I
it's like
think I know where you're talking about.
right off
Yeah.
of like 35 or 36. And he was right behind me. I get up to the light. My cousin was in the car with me. I stop at the red light. I instantly look in my rear view, and the road is straight behind us, and he's nowhere to be found. And I'm like, where did he go? My cousin turns around, looks over the headrest. He goes, I have no idea where he went. We're sitting there for like maybe like 5 more seconds, and then all of a sudden I just hear, bam! And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And
They didn't hit you though.
he hit me.
Oh,
He hit me. He rear-ended me. He I don't know what was going on. I don't know if he wasn't paying attention. I have no idea. But I was sitting at the light. He came in. It's going to be hard to capture. He came in and hit me on like an angle and just like plowed the right rear corner and pushed the quarter panel and screwed up the trunk, all this shit. And
the
there's a
trunk
cop.
that. Wait, this is the trunk that we like had to guard at Waterfest.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
I remember that.
It had a
The,
wing
that
on
yeah, the guy that was trying to like arm wrestle you for it or fight you for the trunk that you paid for.
it. Yep. That's exactly it. That trunk. And there was a cop sitting at the red light in like perpendicular to us and just watched my brother just plow right into the back of me. And obviously, like, I got pushed into the intersection. He pulled over and put his lights on instantly. And I was like, listen, it's my brother. He just got his license. Like, I'm not going to, like, write it a report or anything. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. So what happened was I wound up buying that red truck that I had. I got that from the company my father worked for, and I went back to school. And I came home from school not long after that, and the green car was in the clearing in my yard in Jackson on cinder blocks. And all of my aftermarket lights were ripped off of it. The wheels were taken off of it. The suspension was taken out of it. The exhaust was taken off of it. And it was all on, maybe the exhaust wasn't taken off of it, but it was all now on his car that he hit me. So my car got totaled, and his car, the paint on the front bumper spiderwebbed. That was all.
That's it.
That's it. He still drives the car daily to this day.
Are you serious?
Swear to God. It's
Wow.
got 350,000 miles on it. The motor's never been opened up, never been replaced.
That's nuts. What year is that, Jetta?
97.
I know it's a Mark III.
They're both 97s.
So he still is driving around the, like, ghost of that car.
Yes, he is. He is indeed. All my lights are on that car.
Ugh.
And yeah, my suspension was on that car, but he took that suspension out and then eventually replaced it, and then replaced that again.
Why? Did it, like, go bad, or was it
He wanted coilovers because it was those early years of everyone, like, really putting cars on the floor. So he went and he got those rocker coilovers that were the absolute worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There was zero suspension travel, and we were coming home on Route 23 from Mountain Creek one time after snowboarding all day, and my cousin that was in the car with me when he hit me was in the front seat, and I was in the back seat, and I needed to take a piss, and it was an empty water bottle, right? So I'm in the back seat of that car, taking a piss into a water bottle, and we're on Route 23, and there's this spot that's just like a speed bump going across Route 23. He hit it at 80 miles an hour while I was midstream. All four wheels were off the ground, and then we hit the ground, and yeah, you can imagine what happened from there.
Did he break the oil pan?
No. That's
really?
how stiff that suspension was. So
Holy
he got sick
shit.
of that. He got sick of that, and then I think I don't know what he has in there now. Maybe he's got, I don't know what he has in there now, but whatever he has in there now is definitely more comfortable and much, much higher than what he had. So
yeah.
He's replaced the suspension a few times over in that car. But the car is just rotting away. Like, the floor is practically no longer there. And I'm like, yeah, this is at a point where this car's in unibody and it's just no longer safe to be driving. But
that's a shame.
He's still driving it.
Do you think he's going to try and is there anything that he can do to save it? Like weld in a new floor, or is it just like too far gone at this point?
He could, but yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm considering how low I'm going to actually make the BRZ now, because like now that it's not a daily driver and I can kind of do whatever I want with it,
mm-hmm.
I have to get the first thing that I'm going to need to get. No, I take that back. I've already ordered new brakes for it because they're pretty low. It's at Precision right now. They're trying to sort out which wheel hub has gone bad, and I'm going to have to replace that. Then the harness bar / like cage, whatever, like mild cage, just to stiffen the body, is going in,
mm-hmm.
Along with 4-point harnesses, just because I don't want to have a harness bar and not have harnesses. Then I have to figure out the header situation, because I'm missing the kit. Somehow they rigged up this turbo that there's no boost controller on it. It just runs off of however they've set the vacuum pressure, and it's supposed to spike at 12 pounds and then taper off to whatever they think it's supposed to taper off at. Right now, it's spiking and holding at 5.2, because of the massive exhaust leak in my Borla header. Because when the engine got hydrolocked and the header was like red hot, it caused all these like little spider cracks in it. The problem is everything is back ordered until like mid-July. And then getting it is going to be, another 2 to 3 weeks before they can even ship it out.
Yeah.
But I'm also probably going to need to have it retuned, because when you double the boost, I have a feeling it's going to feel a lot different.
Well, what is it tuned to be at 5 pounds?
Yeah, I mean
12 pounds. It's just not boosting at 12 pounds.
No, it's a custom tune.
Okay.
It was dynoed at Precision. They did a custom tune for it based on what it's boosting to now, and they just said that like you can actually, if you have it up on the dyno and you really hit it full throttle as the revs climb, you can actually see the exhaust leaks in the header.
I believe it.
And he's like, you can actually see them start to open up. He's like, so I knew the minute I got it back, the first like major upgrade that I was going to have to make was going to be to the header. And then, everybody ran out of parts, and here we are.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's been fun trying to get our hands on stuff, like simple stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first it was toilet paper.
Then it was napkins.
Now I don't remember. Well, maybe because I just use paper towels, but
now you can't get regular graham crackers. What the hell are people doing with those?
I don't know, but I'm sure there's knives being wielded.
Oh man!
I told my family that story, and they were like caught between laughing and like, no, this didn't really happen. And I was like,
it happened.
Oh, I believe it happened. I 100% believe it happened.
That's why we have a 6-foot wall the entire length of the property now.
Well, yeah. So what was her reaction to that? I gotta know. I know we were talking about it at the start.
To what?
You gotta to seeing. You started to tell me. You said before the first post was in the ground, she was ringing your doorbell. And then we started talking about getting the truck out of the plow out of the backyard.
Yeah, so I had the plow I keep in like the back corner of the yard because it came with the truck. It's an 8.5-foot Western plow. I mean, my driveway is like 50 feet long and single car width. It's ridiculous. It's way overkill. It's like for commercial plowing. But it came with the truck. It's what I have. It's not in the best shape, but it's good enough for what I need. So perfect. I'm not going to get any money if I try to sell it. I'm not going to be able to replace it with anything smaller for what I could get for it. So it is what it is. But I just wanted to take it out of the yard just in case I couldn't get it out of the yard once the fence went up, which is definitely going to now be the case, only because my air conditioner unit is on that side. And if I rip out the flower box that's there that I don't care about, which I'd happily rip out, the only problem is the air conditioner is there. So I may end up eventually moving, Michelle doesn't know this yet, moving the air conditioning unit to the other side of the house.
Isn't that a big job though?
I don't think it's that big of a deal because the unit is up in the attic, right? And there's just like the drain line, the refrigerant line, and whatever else runs down to the condenser outside, and it runs down on that side. But the unit's in the middle of the attic. You could just move that thing to the other side and run that shit out the softening on the other side. Sure, you got to crack open the lines, and I'm sure refrigerator guys or air conditioning guys going to come here and refill it with refrigerant. But other than that, I don't see what else. Like the house is pretty symmetrical, so like whatever lines or wiring are going to it should be long enough to reach over there. It's just a matter of rerouting. I think I haven't looked into it too much, so I could be completely wrong.
All I know is that like when I look at mine is in like the center of the third floor of my house, and the unit is on the opposing wall on the first floor, obviously. Mm-hmm. So like rerouting everything for me, if I wanted to move it, would be like a massive undertaking.
Oh yeah.
So I just figured probably be a similar
I mean,
situation.
I'm sure it's a bigger deal than I'm making it out to be because this is what I notoriously do, and then I get into it, and I'm like, why did I do this? But then I did
Well,
it.
yeah, you and me both. Oh, you'll love this. Be making a bigger deal out, or well, I don't know if this is making a bigger deal or a smaller deal than it should have been. I tried to take the seats out of the BRZ um, because I needed to, when I put the new seat covers on, I mistakenly removed the idiotic passenger seat like sensor that
Mm.
tells it if there's somebody sitting in the passenger seat, because it's like a little, it looks like a heating element. I thought it was a heating element, so I took it out and I didn't toss it because I figured just in case.
Yeah.
Um, the bolt, the back bolt holding the seat in, instantly stripped when I went to take it off. It was so soft that when I used a bolt extractor, the head just split open like I don't know what, like the whole head of the bolt just split wide open, and then it proceeded to break 3 titanium drill bits. It's the
I don't
hardest
under,
soft bolt that I've ever seen in my entire life.
I don't understand.
I don't understand either. I finally tapped out and I brought it to Precision, and I was like, listen, I'm at a loss. I don't know how the fuck this is going to come out, but I need you to do it.
Yep.
I was like, here's what I did. I know this is all on me.
This doesn't make any sense.
It
It's
doesn't.
soft, but it's hard.
Right. It's soft, but it literally cracked 3 brand new titanium drill bits. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And then it cracked it shattered the head of a bolt extractor.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's stripped instantly. So
Huh.
we'll see what happens with that. I'm curious as to how I dropped it off last week and I haven't heard from him, so I don't know if my car is still in one piece.
Oh my god.
But yeah.
Yeah, so like when I was taking the plow out, I had my truck back there, and then I ran into issues once I finally got the plow on the truck. I ran into issues where I didn't have electric. I couldn't get the thing to go up, down, side to side, and then I remembered when I redid my ground, I never reconnected the plow wiring because it's summer. Why do I need the plow wiring? So then I had the hood open. I was trying to reconnect that. I grabbed the wrong wrenches. I had to go back. In the meantime, she came out and she was pretending like she was doing things in the yard so that she could get my attention to have a discussion about the lawn mohawk. And like I obviously knew that, but 2 days later a 6-foot wall was going up. So I'm gonna handle this conversation a certain way and try and steer it in a direction that things will be amicable at the end of this.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I did and what had happened. And I wound up talking to her for far longer than I wanted to. She told me about how her parents that morning both shit their pants, and and all this shit. So then this morning comes. They get here. They're unloading the truck. They're running the string from the survey marker in the front to the back, and which I had a new survey done because of the lawn mohawk. I wanted to mark the corners. Never had that done when I bought the house, and plus I was getting the fence, so it was good that it was there because they could just run the string and nice and easy. No
problems.
Guesswork. Yep. Right. So she comes out and she sees the string, and she's apparently talking to the workers because this is another thing she does. If you're working, she's going to interrupt your work and talk to you because she doesn't have anything to do or anyone to talk to for that matter. So now's the opportunity.
Of course.
After she was done talking to him, she came and she rang the bell. And I was sitting down here right where I am now working. I hear the doorbell ring, and I'm like, fuck. And I knew that it was her. I get the notification on my phone. I'm like, all right. Here we go. And It was an interesting conversation. She was trying not to allude. She was trying to dance around the fact that she was perturbed by it. Um, Basically, at first, well, how tall is that? You're doing an 8-foot fence, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing an 8-foot fence. That's crazy. Why would I do an 8-foot fence?
That's not nearly tall enough.
Why would I do an 8-foot fence? No, I can't do an 8-foot fence, and I wouldn't. That's ridiculous. It's a 6-foot fence, but the supports, because they have to drill down like 2 feet, the holes, they come 8 feet. So I get why she was saying that. And she's like, and the string was run to the curb. So she's like, you're gonna put that all the way to the curb? I'm like, I'm not putting a fence to the curb. That's crazy. Meanwhile, the guy on the other side of her has a 6-foot fence to the front edge of the house, and then you're not allowed to have more than a 4-foot fence in the front yard. So from the front of the house to the curb, he has a 4-foot fence. So now you got people on either side of her with 6-foot fences, and she thought I was going to the curb just like the guy on the other side. Which, no, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous.
So, but how far did it go?
Oh, it just goes up to the front edge of my garage. So, like, the whole side yard is now no longer a side yard. It's part of the backyard. Because the other thing is that anytime I was on the side of the house, which is frequent because that's where the hose spigot is, her parents sit right in the window directly next to that. And they're, like, banging on the window. They yell at me about the garbage pails out the window. And I'm like, no, we're not doing this.
They still yell at you about the garbage pails.
I haven't gotten yelled at about the garbage pails for quite a while. So, like, now when she was inquiring about this, and I'm like, no, I'm just bringing it to the front of the house. Like, this way the garbage pails will be in the backyard. No one has to look at the garbage pails. No one wants to see those. And like, we want to get a dog, and, like, the dog will have more room in the yard to run around. And this way when kids come around, like, I can run around back there with them. And she was like, she gave me a weird look, and I was like, yeah, that's something that's happening. Like, come November, I'm going to have a daughter. So, yeah. And then, like, once I said that, like, that right there to me was just, like, the hat trick. Like, the garbage pails, a dog, and a child. And, like, that was it. Everything, very pleasant conversation after that.
Right.
It was wonderful.
Well, what is she going to say to you after that? You just dropped an atomic bomb on the whole situation. She can't come back against that.
She comes to me, she goes, this isn't about the lawn mohawk, is it? I said, no, Lisa.
Did she actually use the term lawn mohawk?
She didn't say lawn mohawk. She said the wall of grass is what she was calling it. No, she didn't call it the lawn mohawk.
Oh, my God. That would have been great if she used the term lawn mohawk.
If she did, then I would know she's spying on us in some capacity, which I'm not convinced that she's not, but that would confirm it. But no, it was the wall of grass. And which we had talked about Saturday when we were talking, when I was in the yard about the truck. She's like, she was trying to, like, apologize about the wall of grass. I was like, I didn't get upset about it. I thought it was comical. I thought it was hysterical. She's like, oh, okay, good. I'm glad you thought that, because I didn't want you to think that I was being a jerk or blah, blah, blah. Me and my father were joking about it. He wants to build a wall. I'll build a wall of grass. And you know what's funny is when she had that conversation.
You were listening to it, weren't you?
I was on my deck on the other side of the privacy wall, and I heard the whole conversation. She first off was talking shit about Italians. That was the start of the conversation. But it wasn't to her father. Her father's senile. He doesn't know what the hell's going on.
She knew you were out there.
She knew we were out there. She was talking to him, but at us. And then that conversation turned into, he wants to build a wall. I'll build a wall of grass. And I was like, okay, like, whatever. So then today she asked it. She's like, "This isn't about the wall of grass, is it?" I was like, "Lisa, I told you the other day. I thought the wall of grass was hysterical."
In fact, we joked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, we joked about it on a podcast. There's a bunch of people that came out of the woodwork on social media that was following this whole thing. I don't know.
So, is the grass still? Is there still a wall of grass?
No. I eventually mowed it. So, like, I didn't tell you this, I don't think.
Oh, no.
So
I'm actually a little bit disappointed now.
Well, when I finally said, I was like, you know what? We're getting a fence. I don't necessarily trust. I couldn't get the surveyor who did my survey to come out and mark the corners, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted him to come out and mark the corners so that when the fence went up, everything was legit. I couldn't get in touch with the guy because he retired and his license expired. So I had to have another survey done in order to get the corners marked.
Okay.
Which was annoying, but it needed to happen. So the day before the surveyor came, I did a pass at it because I was getting annoyed with myself. I was like, this is really petty bullshit. This is ridiculous. And I was looking at it all day through the kitchen window while I was working. I was like, that's it. I'm mowing this thing. It was like 30 inches high.
That's insane.
And I mowed it down. And it turned out that a little sliver of it, up by the telephone pole was mine. But the rest of it was all hers.
So essentially, your responsibility is from the. Now wait a minute. All right. So it turns out that basically the telephone pole on your side, like from the telephone pole to your side, is you, even though there was like a little bit of, whatever that you weren't cutting. Mm-hmm. But that means that the back of her fence is way more on your property than you thought. Right?
The back of her fence is like 4 inches onto my property. The front of her fence is 2 feet into hers. So now I have a 6-foot wall between our two houses, and there's now a thing like this between the two fences.
That's never going to get mowed.
It's not my property.
I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying now it's really never going to get mowed because there's no way to get to it.
All right, so I left out a part of what she came over to talk to me about. And, like, the guys were here. They were getting started on the fence. And she's like, I was thinking, like, what if we take down the chain link and we put your fence up where my chain link is? I go, but then my fence would be on your property. I'm not going to do that. Why would I put my fence on your property? That doesn't make any sense.
Very tactful.
Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, and now I'm thinking about it. Like, she has a gate. Home Depot did her gate, and I don't know if they did her fence, but the gate, you know how you have like 2 gates that open up? They meet. Yeah. And they latch together. Hers don't do that. Hers go like this. There's an overlap like this. I don't know why, but so if she wanted to take down her chain link fence and just move her gate over to my fence, she could get that extra room that is her property. Be my guest, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not paying for that. Why? I'm not putting my fence on your property. These guys are here to get started. Like, the job is contracted. We're not changing the plan now.
Right. Yeah. You're not changing. Like, it's done. It's a done deal.
I told her, I was like, I'm not going to ignore that. I'll either weed whack it or I'll kill it, whatever. But, like, I don't. Look, the fence is on my property line practically. They were supposed to come like 6 inches in, and they're not really. They're kind of like on the line. So I don't know. We'll see.
How far in does the fence have to, or how far in is the fence supposed to be?
Well, I asked the town that question when I called about the permit, and we recommend 6 inches. There's no rule. They just recommend 6 inches.
All right. Well, whatever.
So
they recommend 6 inches. It can be whatever you want as long as it's on your property. Then, in my eyes. Yeah.
But I mean, technically, I could have had her move her fence. Which I didn't do that, but it is on my property like 4 inches. In the back corner.
So now moving forward, who's going to be mowing that section of grass? What was formerly the lawn mohawk?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
We got a long summer ahead of us now.
We do have a little bit of a pickle though now, because now the grass that's between the two fences, though it was her property, I was mowing it because our gate was tied into her chain link fence.
Yeah.
So I was utilizing that space as like my yard.
Yeah.
So I've been mowing it, but now I don't know.
Going to the same place that socks and the dryer go.
We'll
you lose
see.
them.
I'll tell you right now, what I might do, just because honestly, now that I have a 6-foot wall between us and I can go in my yard and be left alone, I think things will probably be a lot better between us. And I may just be
Generous?
motivated to mow as far in that gap that my lawnmower will go. Then when I get the weed whacker, I'll go in as far as I can with the weed whacker before I'm chewing up fences, and then may just spray and kill whatever's left.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I don't know.
That's very generous of you.
I'd rather think. Listen, I never wanted things to not be amicable. I don't want to have.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you've got to live next to her for however long you're there, so you can't start war.
Right,
yeah.
20 feet away. I never wanted to have these problems, but it was like anything that I wanted to do was a problem. So if that's the way it's going to be, then that's the way it's going to be. But now if things are going to be okay, we'll see. We'll see how things go. I mean, maybe she was on her meds today and tomorrow she won't be. I don't know.
We'll find out.
We will find out.
We'll find out.
We will.
So where in all of this are you making time to deal with like all the projects as far as like your cars that you've been posting? I'm seeing like the what is it? The A4.
Yeah.
That's been in pieces for weeks, right?
It's been over a month at this point.
Actually, you started that the last time we talked, and that was, let me actually look. Hold on one second. I can tell you exactly when that was. Yeah, no, it was definitely over a month.
Well, I'll tell you we're at what? I was Saturday morning? Maybe the plow might have been Sunday, not Saturday. But Saturday morning, I couldn't sleep. I woke up at like 3:50 in the morning, and I laid in bed until like 4:50 in the morning. And then I woke up, and I made myself breakfast, waited for to get light out, and then I was like, you know what? Michelle's going to sleep for a few more hours. We don't really have we were going to go down to my grandfather's for Father's Day later in the day. I was like, I'll get like a solid 5 hours of work into this car before like we even have to think about leaving. Yeah. So I popped the valve cover off to do the valve cover gasket because I needed to do that, and the gasket, the seal for underneath the chain tensioner as well. So I popped the valve cover off, and there's no sludge in it like most of these 1.8Ts get, which is wonderful. Thank you, Mobil 1. And everything looks good. And I'm cleaning up the surfaces, so when I go to put my gasket back on, everything seals nicely. I get it all nice and clean, and then I go and I get my new chain tensioner tool that I literally just bought. I start putting that in. I start letting the tension out of the tensioner. I start compressing the tensioner on the cam chain, and I get nowhere near bottoming it out, like maybe halfway through, and the fucking thing snapped and broke. So, like,
the chain?
Not the chain, no, the tool to compress the chain tensioner. The fucking thing snapped. So now I was like, God damn it. Like, this, I bought it off Amazon, and as soon as it showed up, I was like, this looks like a chintzy piece of shit. But whatever, I need to use it one time. It'll work. No.
You know, I've noticed there's a lot of things that you get on Amazon that, like, if you want to get that one use out of it, you really got to baby it.
Yeah. Well, that was one of those things. So now I ordered an OEM cam chain tensioner tool, and I'm waiting on that to show up. Should be here Wednesday. But that was like the one thing that I needed to do in the order of operations to start putting all of the rest of it back together. So the new turbo is in. The cat's back in. The O2 sensors are back in. The new downpipe is in. I cut the V-band off the center section of the old exhaust. I got that all clamped in. Everything is in. I just can't start putting the rest of that side of the engine bay back together until the valve cover gasket is done, because all of those like secondary air injection hoses and the PCV hoses, they all bolt down to the valve cover.
So you're stuck until that part, the tool comes in.
Yeah, the only thing at this point that I could have done from there was the heater core. Now, I'm not doing the heater core until the engine is back together and the front end is on, and I'm not going to start taking the heater core apart until that's back together because I've already replaced the heater core on this car last winter, but whatever sediment was stuck in the old radiator and all the hoses had this shit caked on all the inside of the radiator hoses, like all the coolant hoses. I don't know if they were like calcium deposits or what, but it was ridiculous, and it jammed up a brand new heater core. So now here I am doing the heater core again.
Now, do you have to take the dash off to do that?
No, luckily I don't. I did in the Mark III, which was a nightmare, but luckily they got smart and basically pull the gas pedal out. You pull the center console. There's like a little trim piece next to the gas pedal, and then there's two clamps right there, and you just undo those clamps and you can pull the heater core out. I mean, it's not that easy to get to. It's obviously a tight spot, and you got to lay on the floor, and you got the door sill in your ribs, and you're upside down trying to get under there, but
it's not pulling the dash out of the car.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. So you have to do the tensioner, and then everything goes back together, and then you're doing the heater core?
Right. But I also have a big-ass front mount that has not yet been on the car, so I got to, those are always a pain in the ass to get to fit behind the bumper.
Yeah, I was going to say
steering cooler line needs, or the power steering cooler line needs to be moved. It's not going to go back together. All the stock stuff will go back together real nice, but fitting the intercooler, I already know is going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I remember when I did that on my GTI, it took me all day.
Yeah.
Just to making adjustments to the bumper, making adjustments to the fitment of the intercooler. It looks great when it's done, though.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, they look great when they're done.
I'm hoping that I could run my factory grills and you maybe not even see it. It's not even about that. It's just I've been tuned running 22 PSI on a stock side mount intercooler all this time, and in the winter it's fine, but as soon as May hits, it's a dog, and I can't deal with that anymore.
Yeah, the front end helps a lot. I'm torn because on my setup now, I'm so used to the way that the front mounts used to look and how they would just be set up. I'm torn as to whether or not I like the air to water better than the just air to air front mounts. Because my setup has this it looks sort of like a mini supercharger almost, but it's not. It's an air to water heat exchanger, and then there's a small secondary radiator that gets bolted to the front that you don't even see, which is kind of nice actually. And I'm torn because I don't really know whether or not which one is more efficient.
So how does that work? I always wonder about the air to water intercoolers, right? So you're using the coolant that's cooling the engine, right? It's not a separate, or is it a separate?
No, separate system.
Okay.
Totally separate system. And this is another thing. It has its own electric pump.
Got it.
That I don't know. I mean, it's a point of failure, in my opinion. It may last the lifetime of the car, but to me, it's a point of failure. I know it's an electric pump because I can hear it running. When you idle, you can hear the hum of the motor. But so basically, it's its own system, and it has a small reservoir inside the heat exchanger that goes on top of the engine with the pump. Air flows in through the turbo. There's 6 inches between this heat exchanger and the turbo. Flows through the heat exchanger and then into the engine. Then the coolant flows out one side and down to the bumper through the pump, and it's bolted to the front of the AC condenser or radiator or whatever, or I don't remember what order they're in. And then it flows back in. What I wish they would have put in was a way of like, because it's its own sealed system or separate system rather, it's not necessarily sealed. I wish there was a way of like packing it with ice or something of that nature to actively cool it for a period of time.
Got
But
it.
I guess that's not, and that's a limited time of effect. So I guess it's not that important. Um, Looks cool when you
Yeah.
pop the hood. It looks very, very factory. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, but it looks like it actually belongs. Like it, the engine doesn't look like it was modified because everything is, excuse me, powder coated in like a textured black, the way that it would have come from the factory. The turbo is really the only thing that stands out because I've never seen a manufacturer put a turbo like right there front and center. Or you can see it very clearly. It's usually tucked underneath the engine.
Mm-hmm.
And this is immediately to the left of it, but it's holding up. I mean, I put about 2,000 miles on the turbo, and everything seems to be holding together.
It's
Just
good.
waiting for that day that it decides it doesn't want to hold together anymore.
Well,
As
hopefully you have 10 times that amount of mileage before that's a problem. At least.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking. I would really prefer if it makes it another 2 years on that setup. I'll be very content with that. If it blows up in 2 years, I will build the bottom end and keep the same turbo and everything. But the boost, I'll figure out a way to turn the boost up so that we can get maximum power out of it, because it's good up to like almost 400 horsepower. It's a Garrett GT28.
Oh, yeah.
So that's good to like 400 horsepower, but it's, obviously being held back right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's fun. I can't wait to get the car back and actually start driving it again.
All right. So this is something that's very out of character for me, but
Oh boy.
probably going to be, you're probably not even going to believe that I'm doing this, but this is what I'm doing. So I swapped the turbo on my car. I'm putting a KO4 on it.
Yep.
It's a Borg Warner KO4 that when we had Lay Show, my buddy parted out a B5 1.8T, and it was on that, and it was like brand new. Like it still looks brand new. Like it couldn't have been on that car for more than like 1,500 miles tops.
Right.
And I bought it all. It's like I think they go for like nearly $1,000 new. I got it from him for $250, and it's just been sitting around until I was ready to do timing again, which is now. And then while everything was apart, I would swap the turbo. So that's why this is still going on, and I have no time on my hands to actually do it. So it's like a one little thing at a time.
Yeah.
But I got to the point that I was finally ready. Like I got the exhaust in. I was ready to put the turbo in. I look in the back of the exhaust housing. I see a crack in the casting between the back of the compressor wheel and like that little, like there's that little wall between the compressor wheel and the wastegate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a crack in that. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, how did I not notice this until now? I've had this thing for 4 years. Like, what the hell? And I take the turbo that came out of the car, and I look in the exhaust housing of that. It's got the same crack, only in the old turbo with 160,000 miles on it, the crack is like a hairline crack. And on the KO4, the crack is not really a hairline crack. It's got a gap in it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna run it.
Oh my God.
Yep, I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna see what happens. I'm gonna do it for science.
I don't even know what to say to that.
The way I see it, it's already on the exhaust side, right? So if it fails, where's it going to go? It's going to hit my cat, or it's going to hit the back of the compressor wheel, and I'm going to hear it. It's not going to make its way into the engine where it's at. It can't.
No. I wouldn't be worried about that. I would just be worried about getting like stranded somewhere with your turbine, the hot side of the turbo blowing up on you.
We'll see.
I mean, do you think that it would open up as like the compressor surges? Do you think that if you,
I feel like it has to, right? Like, think about how hot that gets.
or maybe it seals?
I don't know. I don't
Huh.
know. But it's funny because both turbos have a crack in exactly the same spot. It's just that this brand used turbo, it's a crack. And the one with 160,000 miles on it, it's a hairline crack, which I find very interesting. I don't understand how it happens. I'm very confused. To my knowledge, the turbo I took off my car never came off my car. I don't know if it's something that has to do with torquing. Maybe someone put too much torque into the nuts that hold the cat onto the turbo. I don't know. Maybe that causes it. Maybe it's a stress crack in the because of that. I really don't know. I don't know what could possibly cause it.
Huh. I don't know. We're gonna find out what happens to it.
We're
I'm
gonna see what
sure.
happens. I'm running it in the name of science.
The only thing that I would be concerned about, realistically, aside from, because you're right, it's not gonna blow your motor. Like you might have to replace some exhaust components, or you could just go cat. You could just hollow out the cat at that point.
Or maybe it'll self-clearance.
Yeah, that too. The only thing that I would be concerned about is leaking exhaust fumes into the engine bay, which is what would cause them. They would end up getting pulled into the cabin of the car.
Well, I had that problem previously, so it like whatever.
Oh,
That's what I was dealing with previously. I hope that's not the case, but again, it's like inside the exhaust housing. It's not. It's not like the flange. It's not the mating surface. It's inside. It's that like it's the wall between the compressor wheel and the wastegate.
huh. You might be all right. You never know.
Give me 25 seconds, and I'll be right back. Probably don't even need that long.
All right, no problem.
Okay. So
Okay.
it's right here. You see this wall?
Yeah.
It's right there. I don't know if you can see the crack because this is the old turbo that has a hairline crack. The crack is right here.
It's hard to make out because of the pixelation on the camera.
Yeah, the other one, the new one, you'd definitely be able to see it, but it's bolted to the car, so you're not going to see it. But yeah.
Wait. Let me see that again. Hold on. I gotta go to gallery view here.
It's like if I could get this pen, it's like right here.
I gotta be honest with you. You might actually be okay with that.
That's what I think. I mean, here's the thing: is that on this one, it's not that bad. On the new one, it's a gap. But well, we're gonna see what happens regardless.
Even still, now after seeing that, like the location of it is not something where I would be. I mean, it's something that I would probably think about all the time, but I don't know that I would be afraid of running.
Like when I'm on like full throttle, full boost, I'd love to know what's happening in there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest, even with my car, like they claim that this kit is supposed to be totally safe for the factory engine. But every time I pull onto the highway and I'm full throttle and like ripping onto an on-ramp, I'm like, oh, please don't blow up on me. I mean, because the reality of it is it's got a used engine in it. Granted, the engine only had 60,000 miles on it. I drove it for 1,500 miles to make sure that everything was all right. And in that time, I kind of drove it like I was angry at it. I wanted to make sure that it was going to hold together.
I mean, that's how I drive the wagon 100% of the time.
I've been.
It does not have an easy life. I'll say that. Like, I drive the wagon like I am beating the hell out of it. perpetually. And that happened ever since I went and put an RS4 clutch in it, and I have a nice heavy clutch under my foot, and then that's it. Like, okay, it's going to be full throttle, and just I'm going to dump the fucking clutch on every shift, and I beat the hell out of it.
What's your opinion on putting a heavier clutch in the car or in a car?
So I really like a heavy clutch. I love the feel of that clutch. The one thing I don't like about it, and it is more because it's an RS4 clutch, it's more race car-y feel. It's like it's on or off. There is no like feathering the clutch at all. It's on or it's off, but it's an OEM clutch. And the one thing that I have that I would have liked to done differently, but the only way that I could have done it is if I could get somebody that would import foreign market Volvo parts into the country for me, was I would like to have used that same RS4 clutch on a dual mass flywheel as opposed to the single mass.
Okay.
And when you
Why?
switch to the RS4 clutch, it's a bigger diameter than the A4 clutch and the bigger diameter than the A4 flywheel. And the only clutch that you can get that is the proper diameter that'll work with that clutch, or the only flywheel you can get that's the proper
Right.
diameter that'll work with that clutch, is off some Volvo that is foreign market. You can't get it here. It was a Luck clutch, which is the OEM manufacturer. So like that was the route I was trying to go. I want OEM, and I want a dual mass flywheel with that OEM clutch. But I couldn't find someone to get it into the country for me, so I just went with the ECS single mass.
Oh, that makes sense.
It was fine at first. And after like the first time I was trying to get it up on blocks and, I glazed the clutch over a little bit. Ever since then, it's like, you can tell it's not really balanced that great. You get that chatter. You turn the AC on, you get that chatter. It's like,
yeah.
So I just put in all this work that's going on, I put a fluid amper on it. We'll see if that helps at all, but I doubt it.
Hey, you never know. I part of me wants to, like, when my clutch goes, because it's inevitably now it's really going to go, because there's no way that clutch has 60,000 miles on it because of the fact that it was changed at 100,000, all because of the throw-out bearing going bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that clutch is going to last another 60,000 miles or even 40,000 miles with double the power output that the engine was putting out previously. I'm like weighing the idea of putting some sort of race clutch in the car because it's not a daily driver anymore. It's say again.
Don't go to like one of those like puck clutches. Like I wouldn't do that.
No, I'm on the fence about going the next step down, where it's still a full mass clutch, like a full round clutch.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, definitely stay that route.
Because I feel myself going full race car on this thing very soon, like within the next 2 years.
With what intentions?
Owning
autocross.
A race. I would love to do autocross. I've never done it. I can never get a group together to go, and I would love to do it. I would love to do track days with it. At the same time, I don't know that I would want to bring it to a regular road course because of the fact that I wouldn't be okay with just leaving it there if I totaled it. Autocross, there's a much lower probability of totaling your car against a cone.
Mm-hmm.
But I want something that's like what's the manufacturer I'm thinking of? Lotus. I want something that has like the speed, like how Lotus is a car that you can tell is
race inspired.
It wants to go fast. It wants to be on a track. It wants to be driven hard, but it's also a road car. I want that feel to it.
That is exactly how I would describe the clutch that's in the wagon right now. Believe it or not, the clutch in the wagon is more that than the clutch that's in the S4. The S4 still has the stock clutch in it, and I get in the S4 and I'm like, this is the wrong clutch.
It's like, this should be backwards.
It should be backwards. It should definitely be backwards, but I'd rather the S4 just have the same clutch as the wagon.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I didn't realize how light the clutch in my car was until I drove my friend's STI. And when I got back in my car, I thought there was something wrong with my clutch because my foot just slammed right to the floor after getting used to the clutch in the other car. And I was like, well, this isn't right. This is I don't remember it being this light.
Yeah, I like a heavy clutch pedal.
I don't think I've owned a car with like a properly like a the right amount of weight on the clutch. They've all been super duper light.
That's how the wagon was, and then I put this clutch in, and it was like perfect. The flywheel bothers me, but the clutch itself, I love.
Yeah. Huh. I also got I'm going to be painting the front end rather than wrapping the car too. I decided because one of my friend Sean, actually the same Sean that helped us do your suspension, painted the hood of my Volkswagen, all that stuff. He is now working at a body shop again, and for I think it's like $1,000, I can have the whole front end of the car resprayed and no longer have rock chips and pitting in the paint and all that from having 165,000 miles on the car.
You've got, wow.
Yeah. That car has not had an easy life.
That's more mileage than what's on my wagon.
Yeah, I bought that car in 2013. What year did I buy it? I bought it December 23rd, 2013, with 54 miles on the car when it rolled off the lot.
Wow.
It currently has 166 and some change.
The wagon's at an 04. It's got 160,000.
Yep, there you go.
Damn. You put
Yeah.
mileage on that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was driving 24 to 30,000 miles a year for a long time. Probably still going to be going back to that, but not on that car. I'll put it all on the Volkswagen. Like the Atlas is 11 months old and it's got 18,000 miles on it already. That had 4 in August. 4 miles. 4 miles. 2019 Atlas SEL Premium, 4 miles. It now has, I think I'm about to hit 19,000 miles. I need like 1 or 2 more and it'll hit 19,000 miles.
Never thought I'd be an SUV guy, but I do enjoy driving Michelle's car.
I feel the same way.
I didn't at first, but I went and oh, you need brakes. I put Akabono pads in it and the StopTech rotors. It's the same combination I put on literally every Volkswagen or Audi that I own. It's the same brake setup on the wagon. It's the same brake setup on the S4. It just feels fantastic.
So I am a big part of the reason that I bought the Atlas. When the BRZ was in the shop, they gave me a Dodge Durango as a rental car. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I could, knowing that I was going to put the turbo in the BRZ and knowing that it was going to now be the fun car and be the car that it was originally like supposed to be, I was like, all right, maybe I can think about getting something that's a little bit more practical that can do stuff. Like if I got to go to Home Depot or whatever, I don't have to worry about like borrowing someone's car, finding someone with a pickup truck to bother them. Mm-hmm.
Or if you have 4 kids, you got seats for them all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I was looking at the Durango and I was looking at a bunch of cars in that price point. I didn't like at the time I was commuting up to Whippany from mm-hmm. Howell, which is, I was putting.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Up by me.
Yeah. And I wanted, one of the things that has become, and you're going to laugh when I tell you this, one of the things that was like a must-have deal breaker was if it has leather seats, which all of these cars did, or either leather or some version of vinyl, they needed to have at least ventilated seats because I did not want to get out of the car and have my back be totally drenched.
Yep.
And so if I wanted that in the Durango, I had to go up to the RT.
I can't. Can we just real quick? Can we put a pin in it? I
Yeah.
cannot stand that if you want this feature, you have to get this package.
Yeah.
That drives me insane.
Yeah. I don't like it either. I don't like it either at all. Um,
I don't want a panoramic roof and the stereo and this and the lighting. I just want the upgraded stereo. That's all I want. That should
yeah.
be an extra few $100 or $1,000. No, you need the $4,000 upgrade package in order to get that one feature you actually want.
Yeah. So I the deal breaker for Dodge was the fact that like it wasn't even the money that bothered me in that situation because I very quickly realized that every vehicle that has that feature is, in the 45 to $50,000 range,
Mm-hmm.
right? What was the deal breaker was the fact that it was a fucking 5 liter or 6 liter, whatever the RT Hemi is. I'm not getting 10 miles a gallon driving that much up and down the highway. So
No.
immediately it was out. I looked at the Kia Telluride, which was really nice. Overpriced, in my opinion, because at the time they were selling them for at or above MSRP because they
Kia.
could.
Look at Kia.
Yeah, Kia. They're like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, no. I don't want this. Like, if I'm going to go for something like that, I want, everything.
Right.
Like, there needs to be every feature that you have, you better put it in that car. And they're like, yeah, we don't have any of them in stock. We're not getting it. So it's this or nothing. I was like, okay, well, that's out. I looked at a Ford Flex because you'd be surprised how nice they are. They look a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Interior is super nice. But I didn't like the idea of the fact that they were discontinuing the car.
There's something about them. I agree. They do look a little weird, but I like things that look a little weird. And I don't know what it is, but there's always been something about them that has caught my attention. And I always look at them and I'm like, I don't know why I'm looking at this thing, but I am.
It's a nice car. Like, it really is. I really don't have any complaints about the car. Don't buy it in black because it looks like a hearse. The one that I was looking at was a two-tone. Which I'm not usually a big fan of two-tone, but it was a pearl white with a gloss black roof. It looked like a Range Rover. Super nice car, but I was going to have my buddy ship it up from Texas. Didn't really want to be bothered with that because I wouldn't be able to test drive it and all that. And it was being discontinued. Drove the... What was the next car I drove? The Ford Edge ST.
Okay.
Which, that's a weird... It has such a weird seating position. I feel like I'm not tall. I'm not very tall. I'm 5'6", and I felt like I was sitting on the roof when I was driving this car. And immediately, like, I hate that seating position. I want to sit this is going to sound weird, but I don't care how big the car is. I want to sit as low in the cockpit as I possibly can.
I'm the same way. Every car I get in, I get that it has a power seat adjustment. I take that thing, I put 2 fingers on it all the way until it bottoms out.
That is exactly where I sit. It's the exact opposite of Paige, who sits like I have maybe an inch between my head and the ceiling, and I don't understand how she sits that way. She's like, well, I want to feel like I'm, high in the air. And I'm like, yeah, this is ridiculous. I feel like if we go over a speed bump, I'm going to get a concussion. But yeah, so I sit as low as humanly possible in the car. Same thing with the BRZ, even though that is already low. But the Edge, you felt like even in the lowest seating position, I had to look down a fair bit for the gauges. I was looking down at the dashboard. It felt like I was sitting on the roof. So I was like, all right, this car's out. I got dangerously close to buying a Hyundai Palisade.
Really?
Dangerously close. Like had a scheduled pickup and everything. They were going to prep the car and I was going to go get it. And I mean, it was a
What
really
happened?
well, so let me tell you what I liked about it that got me to the point that I was like, okay, I'm about to spend this amount of money on
Okay.
a fucking Hyundai.
Yep. Okay.
It had more technology than anything that I had ever seen before. Like you turn on the blinker in either direction, and in the instrument cluster, it shows a camera view of that side of the car. It had great heated and cooled seats. I loved the infotainment system. It felt very intuitive. It was very easy to use. It didn't feel like a distraction. All of the tech felt like it was there to serve a purpose, and it gave you a lot of extras that I felt were great.
Okay.
The seats were actively cooled, which I loved. The Atlas only has ventilated seats, which is good, but not as good as actively cooled. Uh, it was a like really nice gloss black leather interior. Um, really nice car, really nice looking car. Uh, it had, I don't know any other way to describe it other than it felt light. Like it didn't feel, you get in the Volkswagen and it feels substantial. Like you know that it's all together and it's not like everything is the way that it should be.
Hmm.
And I didn't, everything felt kind of, it felt cheap is I guess the best way to put it. It felt cheap. Like everything was plastic. Um, and so the first thing that I had a problem with was that the MSRP that was being quoted at the dealership was lower than what they were higher than what they were listing the car for online, which that pissed me off.
Well, yeah.
Um, and then there was this like little voice in the back of my head that's like, "You're about to pay a lot of money for a Hyundai, a lot of money for a Hyundai." And it wasn't the money aspect; it was the fact that there was like, I
Hyundai.
was like, "Can I drive a Hyundai?" And I'm just like, you know what? I'm sitting at work one day. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look at the Atlas. And previously I was like, fuck that car. It's ugly as shit.
I don't,
I don't want it. What's that?
I don't think so.
Well, I've since changed my mind about it. Obviously, I own one.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, you know what? Let me go take a look at it. I emailed like a bunch of dealerships. I was like, listen, email me back your best and final price. I'm interested in this, this, and this. I gave them a specific car on the lot that I was looking at, and I was just like, give me your best price. If you know, if it works, I'll come back. I'm not looking to have an arduous negotiation. If you're where I want you to be, I'm just, it is what it is. We'll go with it. Flemington Volkswagen emailed me back and they're like, hey, here's the price. This is what it is all in for this car. When can you come in for a test drive? And I was like, they were comparable to the other dealership. I forget where the other dealership was, but they were comparable in the deal to the other dealership. But they had two, and the other dealership only had one. And I think that one of the biggest things that changes the look of the Atlas are the wheels. I have the like 20-inch whatever alloy wheels,
Hmm.
as opposed to those like fat 3-spoke or like multi-spoke. Like they're 5 spokes, but each spoke is 3 spokes,
Yeah.
which I don't really like the way they look. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll be in after work today. At this time, but I was like, listen, I have 35 minutes to do everything with this car. At 35 minutes, I am walking out because I have a doctor's appointment that I have to be at. I need to leave. I'm not trying to be rude. So if you could do whatever, I'll give you whatever you need to know right now, whatever. And they had the car gassed up, ready to go. They had all the paperwork to do the test drive, ready to go, the pricing, everything. Literally, I walked in, they handed me the keys. Within 5 minutes, we were driving that car.
Wow.
Within 30 seconds of that, I knew I was buying that car. I was like, okay, it's the same price as the Hyundai, has every feature that the Hyundai has in it, save for Like it doesn't have the thing where you turn the turn signals and you see the side view of the car. I don't need that. I don't care about that at like one bit. Had the ventilated seats, had all the other stuff that I wanted. And when I saw it in person with those wheels on it, it just looked so much better than what I remember seeing it on the road as. And it just felt 10 times better to drive than any other car that I had test drove.
Well, yeah, so, VR6, right?
Yeah. VR6, 8-speed transmission.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great engine.
Yeah, no, it really is. And
they're internally balanced. They are super smooth. There's no vibration from the motor whatsoever.
No, it really is. It's a fantastic car. And it's
and
so...
you can put an exhaust on to make it sound like Chewbacca.
Well, I was literally just about to say, it's so fantastic that I have absolutely zero urge to mod the car.
Yeah, no, of course.
Which one of my friends, Sean, was like, yeah, give it some time. You've seen the lift kits. I know you're going to have one of those on that car. I was like, at best, that car isn't going to have any major modifications until it's paid off. Like at the earliest. Because it serves the exact purpose that I needed to, in that I can put 4 people in that car and their snowboarding or skiing gear in the trunk comfortably.
Yep.
Because
we rented one when we went on my bachelor party. One of my friends rented one so that we could all just like jump in that and go in one car everywhere, as opposed to like two cars.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Yeah, and you can actually fit. In mine, it's 6 because I have the captain's chairs in the center, but you can fit 6 like normal size adults in that car, even in third row.
Oh yeah, I mean it's tight for people that are like 6 feet tall in that third row. I spent a good amount of time back there. It's tight, but you'll fit.
Yeah, you'll fit, and it's not like that was the other thing. The Hyundai no go. It was smaller. But yeah,
I like the Atlas. I left there wanting an Atlas after we spent the weekend driving around in it.
You better never see my car. You'll want one.
I left there wanting an Atlas, and then I looked at the price tag, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that.
I mean, the entry levels, which are also really, really nice, are only like $35,000.
I've never, ever financed a vehicle, and I've also never, ever paid more than $13,000 for a car. I got Michelle's Q5 for $13,000.
Oh wow! All right.
So
give it a few years then.
Yeah, well, that's what we'll do. We'll wait for depreciation to come, and then we'll get an Atlas.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. I like the truck. It's weird. Some of the features are weird. I don't know if you've ever driven a car with adaptive cruise control. It's weird.
Oh, I don't like that, no.
I use it because when I was commuting, stop and go traffic, it's a godsend. But my foot's always hovering over the brake pedal. If it gets a little bit too close, I'm like there to intervene.
Yeah.
The parking feature is interesting.
So we had a rental, so we
yeah,
didn't have all the bells and whistles. So what's the parking feature?
It parks itself.
Oh.
It will parallel park itself.
Huh.
It won't do it in Jersey City or places like that because generally you have only enough room to fit the truck. Like you or I could get the truck in there, no problem.
Yeah.
This software can't do it because it can't do it in
that man.
What's that?
Machine.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, let me put it to you this way: it works great if it's possible to get the car in the space in one like back and in and then correct forward. If you can do it in that motion, if it's physically possible to do it in that motion, it will do it and it's perfect every single time.
Huh.
If you can't, it's up to you. That being said, with all the cameras on the car, you get the like aerial view, the back view, the front view, all that shit. You can fit it's a big truck, and I've been to Jersey City a few times. I could fit it into a space that has just enough space for that truck without touching the curb because of all the stuff. It's actually, I think that's a better feature than the self-park, personally.
Probably.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think that I would be able to own that truck if I didn't still have the car. That's the like kicker with this whole thing.
That's the thing, is like I couldn't drive Michelle's truck on a daily basis, but it is nice to go from a car with stiffer motor mounts and a chattery flywheel to then get in something that's super quiet and comfortable. But I can't deal with that 8-speed automatic transmission on a regular basis without having the option of grabbing a stick shift and kicking a clutch to the floor.
Why do you think you wouldn't be able to deal with the 8-speed?
It drives me nuts. And I mean, granted, hers is a 2013, so I'm sure the newer ones are much better. It's not DSG, it's Tiptronic. So there's also that. I don't know if is yours DSG?
I don't believe so.
It's just like, I don't know. I just feel like it's never doing it. It almost feels like it has a mind of its own, just because there's 8 gears. And I'm used to manually putting it into the gear that I want it to be in.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Mine's pretty smooth. I know exactly what you're talking about with wanting it. Like, there's definitely a feeling of not being in control for a bit.
Yeah. Like that moment in time. It's like, oh, we're about to go up a mountain. Let me give it gas. And it's just putting along in the gear that it was in. And then it like does this weird jittery thing, and then it finds the gear it wants to be in. And it's not like the transmission's slipping. It's not anything. There's no mechanical malfunction happening. It's just, it's weird.
So mine doesn't do that. Unless I have it in eco, which I usually just leave it in normal mode. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I have to say, it feels weird saying that about an automatic transmission. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm at the point that I'm like getting pretty close to. First off, I need to do a flush and a fill and a filter replacement on the transmission. I've not done it yet. I do need to do that, but I'm at the point where I'm probably going to get some 034 drivetrain inserts and start seeing what I can. Maybe what slack I can eliminate in the drivetrain, because it's just like, oh, it's literally my one complaint with that car is the indecisiveness of what the transmission is doing.
Yeah, they figured it out recently. The next time we see each other, I will bring the Atlas.
That is
try it
good.
Because if I feel like it needs to be in a lower gear, it has like the drive / sport mode, so you just pull back on the shifter and it will instantly downshift.
That is another thing, is like if I kick it into sport mode, then all of these types of situations don't cease to exist, but in regular drive, that's where I experience it.
Yeah, I've literally only like climbing a steep hill when I went up to upstate New York. And like it was a steep hill, and I was like, I didn't want to floor it to get it to downshift, but it was I knew just from driving the car, I knew it was on the cusp of downshifting. So I just pulled, and once it downshifted, and I put it back in regular mode, and it stayed in the lower gear.
Yeah,
because now we're accelerating and it's all good. But yeah.
I like live in the mountains, so it's just like every time I go to enter or leave my development, I experience it. But it's good to hear that they figured it out.
Yeah, it's a nice. I really. The other thing too is they don't have like, you know, some manufacturers have the headlights that turn, right? Well, rather than doing that, because I think the Audi has it, and they want to charge you an extra $20,000 to $25,000 just for the entry level Q7, which there's no fucking way I'm ever going to pay that price unless I win the lottery. When you turn the wheel like 3/4 of the way or a decent amount in one direction or the other, it turns on the fog light on that side.
Oh
So
yeah.
that I'm sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't, because I've had multiple people tell me that they think one of my fog lights is out.
Yeah, but it's only for that brief moment when you're turning.
Yeah, but they're like, no. Like I've pulled up to the gas station before, and they're like, oh, you know, you got one of your fog lights out, and it's happened more than once where I'm like, no, it's supposed to be that way. I guess because they see it and they guess that I'm like fiddling with the stuff inside.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like her car, and I can't believe that I've reached a point where I'm like, I like an SUV. I'll tell you what. You want to know? Here's my thing: is with the wagon, I was at a point where it's 2004. It's got 160,000 miles on it. It still looks good, but it's seen better days, we'll say. Like my driver's fender is starting to get some rust. Like the whole rear cradle is rusty and shit. It's bad. It's every time I go to get an alignment, like the people that are in the alignment shops, they're like, they don't want to touch it. Like I've replaced all of the hardware in all the eccentric bolts, everything. They're like, oh, rust. I don't want to touch it. Yeah, so I got a lot of that going on, and I'm like the truck just sits in the driveway, and like a part of me like was trying to figure out like, do I do all of this work to the wagon that's not really worth very much, or do I just throw in the towel on this thing, get rid of it, and get something else? And I landed on keeping the car, but when I was trying to figure out what I would get to replace it, I was between some weird things. And when I say between weird things, the overarching thing that I kind of landed on was the solution if I were to sell both the truck and the wagon. What I would get was like an early 2000s Ford Excursion Power Stroke 7.3 diesel. That was where I landed. I was like, I between the F-250, the 97 F-250, and the 2004 Audi A4 wagon, how do I get one car out of these two? And I landed on the Excursion.
That's a good point. That's actually that's a good solution.
Like it would do everything that I needed it to do. It would get my mountain bikes to the mountain. It would get the shit from Home Depot. It would get the kids wherever the kids need to go. That was the answer. Yeah. And then I was like, do I want to be driving around everywhere I go in an Excursion? And the answer is no, I don't. I really don't. But I didn't even come to that decision until long after I started looking them up. And like, I remember when they first came out, because I remember specifically going in the car. We had a 84 Chevy Suburban at the time when I was a kid. And I loved that thing. My dad got it from an auction. It was like an ex-government truck. So it had like, those square boxy Chevys.
Yeah.
Like the white steel wheels with like the aluminum looking hubcap to cover all the lugs. And he brought it home and it was like this faded chalky blue. And I remember I'm like, what the fuck? Like, as a kid, I'm not what the fuck, but like this is what you're amped up about? I don't understand. And then he had a friend, like a long childhood friend, who owned a body shop, and he had it resprayed, and it was resprayed like a midnight metallic blue, and then from like the rub strip down was just like a silver for like the two-tone. And he put like a very, very slight, like maybe 2-inch lift kit on it, and then like the classic American racing wheels with BF Goodrich tires, and put an exhaust on it, and like that was it. Like, and never put the badges back on it, like the side, like the fender badges. He never put those back on after he painted it. And like, I loved that thing. Loved it. That thing was awesome. And I think that is probably what set me into a lot of my car shit, was just seeing the transformation that thing made, and then the result of how much I loved it. I cried the day that he stole it. I literally stood at the front door, watched it drive away, and I cried. As a child.
That's brutal.
As a child, yep. That happened.
I believe it.
But I think that had a lot to do with my car insanity. But, so I remember driving to Oasis Ford on Route 9 in the Suburban when he was kind of toward the end of it, like when those excursions came out, like the 2000 excursion. And we went there, and he looked at the sticker on the window, and it was like $40,000 for an excursion, like a Power Stroke diesel excursion at the time. And we thought that was insane, like absolutely insane. And I guess at the time it was insane. But now, you look at it now, what the price of cars are, it's like, well, it's pretty good.
I hate to say it, but yeah, like I think about, I bought my BRZ for 28, and that was like the average price of a car at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Atlas I paid more than the average price of a normal car.
Yeah.
But like when you're buying an SUV, if you want it to have anything other than the basic features, you're right up in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. Like
Right.
if you want a Tahoe, brand new, $60,000 just to get into the base model.
That's insane.
For a Chevy.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I prefer Chevy over Ford.
But the point, same difference on the Explorers. They're like $50,000 to start.
I know, and then the thing is that like I started looking up these excursions that are now, it's 2020. You're talking about a 20-year-old Ford. They want $20,000 for these things. They're still going for $20,000, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I think I'll keep my $4,000 wagon, and I'll keep my $4,000 truck, and that'll be it.
Yep.
Because I'm not going to spend $20,000 to only drive around in an excursion.
Yeah. And on that note, being that we've been on for over an hour, we'll end it there. I think that's a good note to end it on. This was fun.
It always is.
Yeah.